polystyrene plastic and just a little bit of soil on top. So this is what I'd call a semi-intensive green roof. An intensive one, can't show you one because it's too heavy. We don't have any on our botanical garden here. That could be really thick soil layers, up to 1 meter, trees, shrubs. In fact, it can look like any park. I've been to a park in London where you had no idea you were on top of a building. It was an underground building. It looked like any park, but the technology in building a park on top of an underground building is the same as if it was 10 stories up. So it's green roof technology still used. The semi-intensive ones, I mean, when you look at it, it's only, I've gone up from 5 centimeters of soil to 15, but the change is dramatic. With thicker soil layers, you have a much greater variation of plants that you can choose from, which also means you have a greater variation of weeds. So a roof like this needs maintenance. The amount of maintenance is simply a question of what do you want? What do you want it to look like? This is wild meadow species. Weeds wouldn't really notice here, so I don't really have to weed it. But because the slope is so great, I actually need to water it. The steeper it gets, the drier it gets. That's where the limit goes. Those mats I showed you before can actually be attached to a wall, but it will get no water. So unless you irrigate it, you have to stick to reasonable limits. 30 degrees is usually the limit here, but you can make even steeper. You're just balancing on an edge. Yeah.
So what's the issue with weeds, and why is it that they are considered invasive?
Well, it's a very good question. I'm a biologist, so that means I'm very forgiving. Plants are welcome. But if you're a perfectionist and you want it to look in a particular way, then you might not like weeds. And there might be actually one technical reason for being a little bit wary. Now you see these birch trees up here. They are weeds. They came on their own with seeds. They have extremely aggressive roots. Now with this roof, I feel pretty safe because we've got a rubber membrane completely sealed in all edges with heat. So here is absolutely no gap where a birch tree could send down their roots. But if we didn't have that, I would remove them quickly because they could actually damage the building. But while we're here, let's get into a little bit about why on earth do we want to have plants on our roofs? Well, there are many good reasons for it. Some have to do with the building itself. For example, we're actually insulating the building against cold in the winter, but even more importantly, against heat in the summer. Black, naked tar roof like that gets really hot in the summer, heating the building, wasting a lot of energy on cooling. Green roof means it doesn't get any hotter than the air temperature. So the difference between that roof over there and this one can be, that one is 70 or 80 degrees on a sunny day, and that one's 30 on a really warm day, or 20 the rest of the time. Which means we save energy in the building, but it also means that we're actually saving the building material itself. The roofing felt isn't, as many people think, damaged by moisture. The thing that damages the roofing material is UV light from the sun and the high temperatures. So we're actually protecting it. The roof membrane will last about twice as long with a green roof on it. Saving money. But those are the effects that have to do with the building specifically. But then we have all the effects that have to do with the general environment in the city. Now you're students, I think you can understand this type of language. A city is an ecosystem, really, even though we don't think about it. But an ecosystem without plants is a very unbalanced ecosystem. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to bring back more plants into the city to get a balanced ecosystem. Because plants perform very important functions in any ecosystem. Functions that are much more expensive if we try to do them with technical solutions, such as cleaning the air, cleaning the water, holding back the water, evaporating the water, cooling the entire city. We get something called the heat island effect. Cities get very hot because there's so much asphalt and concrete conserving the heat. We can cool cities by bringing more plants. We can get noise levels down by having much more soft surfaces, plants. We can bring nature back into our cities. We can give life space back to wild species of animals and plants. There are a lot of good reasons for having green roofs. And besides, they look nice. And that's not just cosmetics. That's actually a question of human health. As an example, there was a hospital in the United States, in the state of Washington, where they discovered that patients got dramatically faster well and used much less medicines in one side of the hospital compared to the other side in the same building. And of course they wanted to know why. They made a big survey. They found no differences inside the building. The only difference was the patients who got well faster had a view over a park. The other ones had a view over a concrete building. These patients weren't even out in that park exercising. They just saw it from their window. And it was enough to make a dramatic change in their recovery process. We humans are made for being in a green natural environment. This is human life. So opportunities to see greenery and be in greenery is important. We can make accessible roof gardens, or we can make roof gardens that can be seen from other buildings. And basically with all the environmental positive aspects of having a lot of green roofs in the city, we need much. We need lots of plants on the ground where that space is available, on the facades and on the roofs. The reason why I'm talking a lot about roofs and facades is because that space which isn't used already, ground space is already taken, but roof space, most architects don't think about it. It's just there to keep the water off our heads. But use it for plants. It's going to have a huge impact on the entire ecosystem of the city. I know in Toronto they made a survey, a modelling survey. How many degrees cooler can they get Toronto city centre by greening, say, 10% of the flat roofs? And it was quite a large number, like 2-3 degrees colder on the hot days of the summer. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
So what's the benefit of a roof like this, the semi-intensive versus that?
Well,
other than aesthetics.
If you look at the water retention, a roof like that is really good. It can take up 50% of all the rain that falls annually, which stays there, is evaporated, and never goes down to bother the drainage system, which is a huge economic saving. This one is even better. This can take up to 90% of the stormwater and keep it here and evaporate it, use it. So that's one big difference. Of course, the insulating value of something like that is greater than that. And you have the recreational value of a roof like this. And I mean, you can use something like this, you can actually grow food